Episode 6.
Struggling to get your business online? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Small Business Puzzle Podcast. Now, here's your hosts, Michael and Teresa Blaze.
Good morning. This is Michael and Teresa with the Small Business Puzzle Podcast. And we have an incredible treat for you this morning. We have a guest, and we're sitting here at Podcast Movement, which is a huge conference of podcasters, and we were just talking with Shawn about what he's doing with his business. So, with no further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Shawn Smith, the Mobile Pro.
Hello, Shawn. How are you doing?
Hey, Teresa, Michael. So good to be here. I'm just honored. Thanks so much for having me as your guest.
Not a problem. So last week, just so you know, we covered podcasting in general and how a business might use podcasting. But my question is, what is it that you're the Mobile Pro? So how would someone use podcasting in respect to mobile?
Yeah, well, that's always been a struggle for podcasters, hasn't it? Because there's all this big, complicated equipment that is not very portable. And that was the struggle that I have. I've been a studio musician for the past 25 years, a touring musician. So I know a lot about equipment. I own too much equipment, as most musicians do. And I was trying to figure out, how can I get this equipment into a backpack that I could take it with me, but still have pro quality audio. So I'd been kind of toying with this for years, but it really wasn't until I started doing mission work in Guatemala with my wife that I realized, wow, if I could figure this out, how to do podcast recording from Guatemala, our mission team members can share their stories while they're in Guatemala before they forget them, fresh off the mission field, because like a month's worth of stuff happens in a day and when you're in Guatemala doing mission work, and you often forget by the time you get home, even if you're there for a week. So I thought, if I could capture some of these moments and record them and send them in audio files, which are nice small MP3 files, which is possible to upload with a limited bandwidth in a developing country like Guatemala. If I could figure out how to do this, this would be wonderful for our mission teams being able to communicate back home to church members, family members, sponsors, and supporters. So I spent about 3 years trying to figure out different connectors and mics and preamps and computer interfaces, all this gear to try to get it all into a backpack. And so after about 3 years, and after Apple released their iOS 7, that's their 7th version of their system software on their iPads, iPhones, and iPod Touches, when they came out with that System 7, that provided pro-quality audio going into the power port, the Lightning camera connection kit, or the 30-pin connector on the older devices. And then it was just a matter of figuring out which apps and which combination of equipment could get in there. So I finally came up with 5 different setups that I field tested in Guatemala, and I've recorded over 100 Mobile Pro podcast interviews with, not only in Guatemala, but all over the country at events like this. Actually, Podcast Movement last year, in 2014, is when I started doing events here in the U.S. So I came up with an ebook called 5 Ways to Record Podcast Interviews with an iPhone, and it has 5 different setups from $100 to $2,200, from 1 microphone up to 5 microphones, and all the setups will fit into a backpack, and all of them, except the 5 mic deal, all of them do not require a battery or extra power. You don't have to plug it in. It just gets its power from the iPhone. So after I developed the ebook, I had quite a few people who were very interested, but they needed more than just a photo and some links to order the equipment. So I put together a video guide which is a step-by-step video guide that walks people through step-by-step how to connect all the equipment and how to run the application on the iPhone so that they can get up and running in less than an hour doing pro-quality podcast interviews. And so that's my video guide and my ebook that I developed this past year. And I was speaking here at Podcast Movement, and that's what I was sharing a little bit here at Podcast Movement, how to do pro-quality mobile podcasting with multiple microphones into an iPhone out of a backpack.
Well, that is great. Let me ask you this then. You do mobile, so the question is, I'm thinking more for the brick and mortar business that might be putting this into application. How would they best use a mobile situation? Let's say you're a retail store, or maybe you're a lawyer, or a service provider. How would you best use this sort of application?
Well, that's a great question. Podcasting is exploding in the marketing field because you are able to build a listener base that are going to be listening to your messages not only for a 30-second commercial on public radio or commercial radio, but a 20 or 30-minute podcast like you guys do every week. And so they're delivering, it's a way to deliver to people directly into their ears. It's a very intimate thing because most people are listening to podcasts through earbuds, and most people are listening while they're doing something else. You don't have to be locked into like a video where that's all you can do is watch and listen to the video, but you could be driving a car, you could be working out, you could be walking the dogs, you can be doing laundry or doing the dishes, and you can still be listening to podcasts. So a lot of brick and mortar businesses are investing in podcasting because it's a great way to promote their business and to build a relationship, a long-term relationship with their client base. And so a way that mobile podcasting can be used for brick and mortar is you have the opportunity to do podcast interviews with your clients from your storefront. You can have a mobile setup ready if you got your iPhone and a small mic or two that literally fit in a backpack or a purse or just behind the counter. You can record testimonials from your clients. You can interview your clients as to how they're using your product or service. And the great advantage of this is you don't need to be in a treated studio. You can be anywhere. You can be on the street. You can be on location. If your brick and mortar services, for example, building supplies, hardware store or something, I mean, you could go to someone's house and talk about the project that they built with their, the materials that you sold them. So there's lots of different options. Real estate, for example, has really gotten into podcasting because they're doing on location, things like that. So there's lots of applications for brick and mortar to highlight the different uses of their products and services from their client base or from vendors who are selling specific products and services through the brick and mortar. And those interviews can be done from anywhere.
You mentioned iPhone applications. Now, is it only limited to iPhone, or can you actually run this from an Android as well?
Yeah, so it is possible to do podcast interviews from Android. And in fact, in my ebook, I have an Android option. It is bonus option 1, and it's Android. However, to run through Android, you're going to run through the headphone jack, which is a lower quality audio. Now, it's still way better than what you're going to get from the microphone on the Android device itself, which is why I recommend it. But if you want the high-end pro-quality audio, iOS is really the only way to go. And you can do it with an iPhone or an iPad or an iPod Touch. You don't have to have an iPhone. You can do it with the iPad if you have one of those, or an iPad mini, and they work just as well. It works just as great. But there is an Android option, and the app that I recommend for Android is called Auphonic, AUPHONIC, auphonic.com. Auphonic is the app in the Google Play Store. It's a free app. and it does pro quality recording into your Android device. And the app that I highly recommend for the iOS side is the one that we're using right now called Boss Jock Studio. That's Boss Jock Studio. And it's a $10 app, which is still incredibly cheap when you're talking about pro quality audio software.
Agreed.
But it's only $10, and it will do amazing things, as your listeners will soon find out as you guys continue to use this app.
So,
as compared to Audio Audition, which
agreed.
is either a $20 a month commitment, or if you buy it, I don't even know if you can buy it outright anymore.
No, you can't. They've gone to a subscription-only deal on that, so it's a monthly subscription for that program.
So while it's a great program, this is $10 and you're basically set.
Yes, sir.
So would you have a call to action for any businesses that might be listening to this?
Yeah, a call to action in terms of how they can get started.
Yeah, I mean, in general, we're going to be providing a link, so they can pick up your book on the show notes page. But in general, would you have a call to action or a last message for businesses that might be listening in?
Yes, I would say if you've been considering getting into podcasting, please consider a mobile pro podcast solution. If you have an iOS device or Android device, you can get into pro quality audio with what you're listening to right now for about $100, $110 with the app. This mic that we're using, the ATR 2100, comes with a digital cable, and you can plug it. This mic is $60. You can plug the included digital cable into an Apple Lightning camera connection kit. It's a $30 adapter, and then $10 for the app, $110, and you're going to get the exact same quality that you're listening to right now. You can't do that on the PC side. Or Mac side. It's just you're not going to be able to do it mobily. And so I say this is a low entry point. It's less expensive. It's a lot more simple to use. You guys can attest to this app. You've only had it for 24 hours or something like that, and you're already up and running, recording it, and it's not rocket science.
No.
My call to action would be get the app, get one of these mics, and check it out. And if you want a little bit more help with how to set it up, if you're a non-tech person or you want the quickest path possible to get set up, get my video guide. It's $97. You get lifetime access for it, and it will give you videos, step-by-step videos on all 5 of the different setups that I have, and it'll get you up and running both with Boss Jock and the equipment in less than an hour's time.
And you can actually find that at tbm.link/mobile pro. So, all right, Shawn, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us. And, this has been Teresa Blaze with the Small Business Puzzle Podcast, and we are signing off.
Have a great day.
You've been listening to the Small Business Puzzle Podcast. To catch all our past shows, visit sbppodcast.com.